Welcome to your drive for success keeps making the same mistakes, he refuses to learn, and instead of taking responsibility, he blames the world for his problems. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." In other words, the foolish man stumbles through life blaming bad luck circumstances, and other people never realizing that his own blind spots are the root of his suffering. This is the core of stupidity. A foolish man lets his worst habits run his life, and instead of recognizing them, he believes it's just the way things are. He's not in control, he's on autopilot, repeating the same self-destructive cycles over and over. But here's the truth: stupidity is a choice, and if you don't identify and eliminate these behaviors, you might be making the same choices without even knowing it. If you want to avoid becoming that man, or if you want to recognize these traits in others, then listen carefully. Here are 6 undeniable signs of a stupid man. 1. He thinks he knows everything. Nothing screams stupidity more than a man who refuses to learn. A stupid man believes he already has all the answers. He never questions his own thinking, never seeks new knowledge, and never admits when he's wrong. Instead of growing, he clings to his outdated beliefs as if they are absolute truth. The Bible said in Proverbs 18 verse 2, "A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion." Carl Jung emphasized, "Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge." This kind of man will argue about topics he knows nothing about. He'll dismiss advice from people who are wiser than him. He'll scoff at new ideas, calling them useless or wrong simply because they challenge what he already believes, and doubling down on their own ignorance. Instead of evolving, they stay stagnant. There's a real psychological explanation for this: the Dunning-Kruger effect. This phenomenon explains that people with low ability in a subject tend to overestimate their competence, while truly intelligent people recognize how much they still don't know. A stupid man is trapped in this illusion of knowledge. He thinks he's an expert because he watched one YouTube video. He believes he understands economics, politics, and psychology better than trained professionals. He acts as if his personal experiences represent universal truth, but in reality, his ignorance is so deep that he doesn't even recognize it. How this mentality ruins his life: he stops growing since he believes he already knows everything. He never seeks to improve. He pushes people away. No one respects a man who is arrogant but uninformed. He makes people lose interest in talking to him. He makes terrible decisions without the ability to recognize his own blind spots. He repeatedly makes the same costly mistakes. He stagnates in his career. People who refuse to learn get left behind. They don't develop new skills, they don't adapt, and they end up stuck in the same place for years. A smart man does the opposite. A truly intelligent man asks questions. He seeks mentors, studies different perspectives, and understands that wisdom comes from constant learning. Socrates once said, "A wise man knows that he knows nothing." He surrounds himself with people smarter than him. He actively seeks feedback and criticism. He challenges his own beliefs and updates them when necessary. If a man never questions himself, never reads, never learns, and never admits when he's wrong, he's not smart, he's just stubborn. 2. He never takes responsibility. A stupid man always has an excuse: his bad decisions. He was tricked, his lack of success. The world is against him. A stupid man never owns his mistakes. When something goes wrong, he blames bad luck. When he fails, he blames society, his boss, his family, anyone but himself. When his relationships fall apart, he says women are the problem. Instead of looking in the mirror, he lives in denial, because taking responsibility would mean admitting that he is the reason his life isn't improving, and that's too uncomfortable for him to handle. Accountability is a hallmark of maturity and intelligence. A man who can't own his mistakes is a man who will never grow or improve. A foolish man sees himself as a victim of circumstances instead of the creator of his own life. If he's broke, it's because the system is rigged. If he's out of shape, it's because he has bad genetics. If his career is going nowhere, it's because his boss is out to get him. He convinces himself that everything is outside of his control. But here's the ugly truth: people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Carl Jung. And that's exactly what a stupid man does. He runs from himself. Instead of facing his flaws, he builds a wall of excuses to protect his fragile ego. What happens when a man refuses to take responsibility? He stays stuck in the same problems for years. He loses respect from others because people see through his excuses. He never grows because growth requires accountability, and worst of all, he loses control over his own life, because here's the harsh reality: if you keep blaming others, you're giving them power over you. The moment you say, "It's not my fault," is the moment you surrender your ability to change. Now let's look at the difference between the fool and the wise man. A fool blames the world, a wise man adapts and finds solutions. A fool makes excuses, a wise man finds a way forward no matter how hard it is. A fool avoids discomfort, a wise man embraces it knowing that's where growth happens, and that's why stupid men stay broke, bitter, and stuck while wise men keep evolving and winning. So ask yourself, are you taking full responsibility for your life? Or are you secretly playing the victim? Because the answer to that question determines everything. 3. He can't control his emotions. One of the clearest signs of a foolish man is his inability to control his emotions. Stupid men are actually ruled by their emotions. He reacts instead of responding. He lets his feelings dictate his actions, often making rash decisions that lead to regret. Instead of handling problems with wisdom and composure, he lashes out, breaks down, or runs away. Take, for instance, the hothead. He explodes in rage at the slightest inconvenience, whether it's traffic, a delayed response to his text, or someone disagreeing with him. He thinks this makes him look strong, but in reality it shows weakness. The overreactor, every minor problem feels like the end of the world. Instead of finding solutions, he spirals into frustration or self-pity. The impulse-driven man, he acts without thinking, spending recklessly, quitting jobs out of anger, saying things he regrets in arguments. His emotions control him, not the other way around. Carl Jung warned about the power of the unconscious mind, saying, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." For men who lack emotional control, their unconscious reactions dictate their destiny. They don't think, they don't strategize, they just react. And then when things go wrong, they blame everything except themselves. They mistake aggression for strength. They think shouting the loudest makes them right. But the reality, a man who can't control himself is weak. A man who can't master his emotions will always be controlled by other people. He's easily manipulated. Because anyone who knows how to push his buttons can control him. He'll also be controlled by circumstances. He's unstable because his mood depends on things outside of his control. Then he'll be controlled by his own mind. He sabotages his own success, relationships, and opportunities because he reacts emotionally instead of logically. In contrast, a wise man remains calm under pressure. He understands that emotions are temporary, and he doesn't let them dictate his behavior. A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man quietly holds it back. Proverbs 29 verse 11. True strength is emotional control. Wise men know when to speak and when to remain silent. They stay calm under pressure. They handle conflict with intelligence, not outbursts. This is what smart men do. Instead, they pause before reacting. Instead of lashing out or making impulsive choices, they take a moment to process their emotions. They channel emotions constructively instead of letting anger destroy relationships. They use it as motivation to improve themselves. They master their mindset. They practice self-awareness, recognizing when emotions are taking over and shifting their focus to rational thinking. If a man can't control his emotions, he can't control his life. A truly strong man is not the one who shouts the loudest or fights the hardest. It's the one who remains composed, thinks clearly, and makes decisions that lead to real success, for he surrounds himself with fools. A man's inner circle says everything about him. It's a mirror that reflects his future. Look at the people a man chooses to spend his time with, and you'll see exactly where he's headed. A stupid man makes the mistake of surrounding himself with the following people: negative thinkers, people who constantly complain, blame, and see problems instead of solutions; lazy individuals, those who waste time on distractions instead of building a meaningful life; yes men, friends who never challenge his bad decisions, never call him out, and only tell him what he wants to hear; people just as lost as he is. Instead of seeking out mentors, he sticks with those who keep him in his comfort zone. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said, "Tell me who you spend time with, and I will tell you who you are." A stupid man fears growth. He doesn't want to feel uncomfortable, so he avoids people who are smarter, more disciplined, or more successful than him. Why? Because those people force him to confront his own shortcomings. A weak man avoids discomfort. A strong man embraces it. Instead of being the dumbest person in a room full of brilliant minds, he'd rather be the smartest person among fools. It boosts his ego, but it cripples his growth. Carl Jung believed that we unconsciously absorb the behaviors, thoughts, and energy of those around us. This means spend time with losers. You'll start thinking like one. Surround yourself with negativity. You'll become negative. Hang around the undisciplined. You'll lose your own discipline. If a man's closest friends are broke, lazy, and directionless, guess what? That's his future too. But a wise man does the opposite. He actively seeks out people who challenge him, push him, and make him uncomfortable in the best way. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Smart men choose their circle carefully. They want to be surrounded by mentors, people who are already where they want to be; challengers, friends who call them out and push them to improve; winners, those who are driven, disciplined, and ambitious. because they understand one simple truth: your environment shapes you more than you realize. A stupid man lets his environment control him. A wise man controls his environment. So the real question is, who are you surrounding yourself with? If you're in a room full of fools, you might already be one of them. 5. He chases pleasure instead of discipline. A stupid man is a slave to his impulses. He chooses comfort over challenge. He seeks distractions instead of growth. He indulges in short-term pleasure, ignoring long-term consequences. Instead of building something meaningful, he wastes his time chasing cheap dopamine hits, mindless entertainment, unhealthy food, endless scrolling, alcohol, drugs, or casual relationships that leave him empty. This is the path of self-destruction. Carl Jung believed that the human mind is a battlefield between our higher self and our lower self. When a man constantly chases pleasure, he is letting his lower self, his most primitive, undisciplined urges, control his life. Fools live for pleasure, but the wise invest in the future. In other words, a man who doesn't discipline his desires becomes a prisoner to them. Society today makes it easier than ever to be a fool. We live in a world that offers quick fixes for everything. Bored, scroll endlessly on social media. Sad, numb yourself with alcohol or drugs. Lonely, swipe right and hook up with strangers. Unmotivated, play video games and pretend to be successful instead of putting in real work every day. Weak men choose these cheap dopamine hits over discipline. And what happens? Their dreams stay dreams, their bodies get weaker, their minds get lazier, and they wake up years later wondering why they never became the man they wanted to be. A stupid man asks, what feels good right now? A wise man asks, what will make my future better? Stupid men waste time on temporary pleasure. Smart men invest time in self-improvement. The lazy fool watches Netflix all day. The wise man builds his skills, works out, and strengthens his mind. The weak fool blows his money on parties and junk. The wise man saves, invests, and builds wealth for his future. The undisciplined fool jumps from one casual relationship to the next. The wise man builds meaningful connections and chooses a partner who elevates him. This is why only disciplined men succeed. A foolish man devours all he has, but a wise man stores up wealth. Proverbs 21 verse 20. The greatest men in history, warriors, leaders, philosophers, all lived by discipline. They woke up early, trained their minds, controlled their desires, and focused on their mission. Pleasure is a trap. A fool seeks it, a wise man controls it. If you can't master yourself, the world will master you. 6. He never learns from his mistakes. This is the deadliest form of stupidity, repeating the same mistakes over and over. A man who refuses to learn from his failures is a prisoner of his own ignorance. No matter how many chances life gives him, he stumbles into the same traps, whether it's in relationships, business, or personal growth. Take a moment and think, do you know someone who dates the same toxic people and wonders why they always get hurt, makes the same poor financial decisions, and constantly struggles with money, falls into the same self-destructive habits? Procrastination, laziness, addiction, without ever changing their approach. This is what Carl Jung referred to as unconscious repetition compulsion, the tendency to repeat harmful behaviors from our past, because they feel familiar, even if they cause suffering. A foolish man never stops to ask, why do I keep ending up here? Instead, he plays the victim, believing life is just unfair, or that others are to blame. But here's the truth: life is a teacher, but only if you're willing to learn. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, and expecting different results. As Albert Einstein perfectly put it, life keeps teaching lessons. The question is, does he learn, or does he keep making the same dumb decisions? A wise man does something different. He studies his failures. Instead of running from pain, he analyzes it. What went wrong? What could I have done differently? What lesson is life trying to teach me here? The difference between a fool and a wise man is not the number of mistakes they make. Both will fail. Both will face setbacks. The difference: a fool repeats his mistakes, a wise man grows from them. And the reality is this: if you keep making the same bad decisions, life will keep punishing you until you finally wake up. So ask yourself, are you learning from your past, or just repeating it? Let me give you a bonus sign: stupid men talk more than they listen. A stupid man loves the sound of his own voice. He'll dominate conversations, interrupt others, and rarely, if ever, ask questions or show genuine interest in what someone else has to say. Why is this a sign of stupidity? Because listening is how we learn. It's how we build relationships, gain new perspectives, and grow as individuals. A man who can't listen is a man who can't grow. Now that we've broken down the 6 biggest signs of a foolish man, here's the real question: how do you make sure you're not falling into these traps yourself? Because let's be honest, we've all been guilty of some of these behaviors at some point. The key is recognizing them early and making the right changes. No one is born wise. Intelligence isn't about having a high IQ or knowing random facts. It's about self-awareness, the ability to adapt and the discipline to make better choices. So how do you break free from stupidity and build true intelligence? Stay with me, because in the next section we'll break down the exact steps you need to take to escape these patterns and start living at a higher level. But first, drop a comment below. Which of these 6 signs have you seen in others, or maybe even in yourself? Let's discuss. So if you want to break free from stupidity and develop true intelligence, here's what you need to do. 1. Become brutally honest with yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Take a hard look at your life and ask, where am I making the same mistakes over and over? Do I blame others instead of taking responsibility? Am I surrounding myself with people who make me better or people who keep me stuck? Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. If you're not willing to be honest about your flaws, you will never grow. 2. Kill your ego and stay humble. A foolish man thinks he knows everything. A wise man knows he's always learning. Start questioning yourself. What do I believe that could be wrong? What can I learn from the people around me? Am I open to feedback? Or do I just get defensive? The moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. Stay humble, stay curious, and never assume you've got it all figured out. 3. Master emotional control. A stupid man is ruled by his emotions: anger, jealousy, impulse. A wise man controls his emotions and thinks before he acts. Practice patience. Learn to listen instead of reacting. Stop letting small things trigger you. A man who can't control himself will always be controlled by something else. 4. Surround yourself with smarter people. If you're the smartest person in your circle is too small. Seek out mentors. Cut off negative influences. Learn from people who are ahead of you in life. Jim Ran once said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose your influences wisely. 5. Learn from every mistake. This is the most important rule. You will make mistakes. That's inevitable. The question is, will you learn from them? Will you reflect, adapt, and grow? Or will you keep repeating the same cycles? A wise man treats every failure as a lesson. A foolish man ignores the lesson and keeps falling into the same traps. Intelligence is a choice. At the end of the day, stupidity is not permanent unless you choose for it to be. You have the power to change, but only if you're willing to. Do the hard work. Face yourself. Stay humble. Learn from your mistakes. Surround yourself with the right people, because the truth is most people will never do this. They'll stay stuck in their patterns, blaming others, avoiding responsibility, and wondering why life never changes. But you're different. You're here because you want to grow. You want to rise above the average. You want to become the kind of man who learns, adapts, and succeeds. So now it's up to you. If this video spoke to you, subscribe for more insights that will push you toward your highest potential. Stay sharp, stay disciplined, and never stop learning. Stay tuned.